we're doing the fitted soaker for inside the cover system. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing the tutorial for doing a flip style cover using the same case elastic as the all-in-two system uses. But it's just shaped differently. And so this week, since we just did the surged fitted yesterday, we're going to be doing the fitted soaker that snaps into the cover system. If you have anything else that you want to sew, let me know. I'm totally happy to do whatever. But for this, we're just going to be doing the snap-in soaker, and it's exactly like the fitted, surged fitted, except for the snaps go all the way through. So you can do all the sewing before you add any snaps. There's no pre-prep, it's just cut fabric. If you're doing the fitted style for it and you want to have hidden snaps for the front belly panel, then I recommend taking off the outer 2 snaps and just having the 8 at the belly, and that way it'll be easier for you to serge back around when you're done without going over a snap, because that's no fun with the serger. Yeah, got some focus issues. Focus. There we go. I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties. I'm really sorry about that. Yay, live streams. Yeah, so it's just a snake soaker that's just serged down, and then the basic fitted shape, whether you're doing the part that's the style that's the insert or the style that's the self-contained fitted. I'll be in post-processing cutting out the muted part of this and adding in the links for all that. As far as the beginning, when I didn't have any sound, I was just talking about the different things we've done so far this month, so that's not really important. I don't have any larger size patterns, and really my best suggestion is to take a pair of panties or a pair of, whatever fits over that kid's butt pants and cutting them open and then adding on about 3 inches in the rise, which is the part from the back at the waist all the way through the crotch to the front before you add your leg elastics. And then once you get the leg elastics right, it's, it shouldn't be a problem. The extra large square tab pattern is the closest I have to a big kid diaper. It fits about up to 55 pounds, which is pretty good for as far as potty training. It would fit like almost to a kindergartner. But not for adults. I don't have anything for bigger kids or adults, like no special needs stuff. Really the best thing is just to get something that's their size and sort of cut it up and use that as a template. And what I do is I trace it onto like butcher paper or a cut open grocery bag, and then you just add in that kind of extra for turning. And the shape through the legs is the biggest challenge. You don't want to go narrow through the legs, you want it to be wider. If you go narrow, then you're going to have leaking. So you maybe take a look at that extra large square tab and how it differs in shape from the smaller square tabs, and you'll be able to see kind of how much you can bring it in proportion from hip to the crotch ratio. But I've never had anybody to try anything bigger on, and it's just a lot of fabric to sort of play around with. I really think the best bet would be just cutting open something you already have and sort of adding to the rise, widening through the crotch, making sure it's going to be enough room around the hips to add absorbency. Absorbency layers get thicker as the person gets bigger because they have more urine. So, that's one reason why it's really important to not narrow in at the crotch. And it seems like it's bulky and wide, but like I showed before, when you have a diaper that's wide at the crotch, like something like this, when you have a diaper that's wide at the crotch, when it goes between your legs, it doesn't push out your legs, it pushes in. So that it still is narrow, it's just got extra, sort like even a Huggies, even a disposable diaper will get really big through the middle when it gets more absorbency. Yeah, the best thing to do, like I said, the fleece kind of a pants over whatever you're doing will help hold in moisture because they're kind of like a second barrier. They're not as good as pull, but they kind of spread everything around. As long as there's enough absorbency around you. Another thing would be to make a pull mat to put under you on the bed or to put under your child or whatever, the potential is. A lot of people will make just like a 24 by 36 piece of pull and then put like a towel in the middle of it and then just fold the pull, over the towel on the outside. So say you've got your, rectangle of pull, and then you would just kind of sew like an inch or two over on the edges inward. And then that'll make a good, good washable mat. And it'll hold in place pretty well. So a lot of people just do bed mats, but as far as like, you know, overnight wetting solutions for a bigger person, it's really just an issue of you can take an adult sized Depends, you know, cut them open and use that as a pattern. Adults vary so much in size. So like if you had like a 300-pound person versus like a 95-pound person, the difference in the hip is so much that having a pattern that sort of fits generically for a huge range like that is really hard. It's better to just take something that fits and sort of modify it to yourself. I do have a friend who has a teenage nonverbal autistic disabled son, and she makes him cloth stuff. So I know it works, but she makes her own. She's an amazing seamstress. So, you know. Oh, well, there's lots of special needs people who use diapers all the way into their adulthood. There's a lot of I mean I'm sure that there's if you just look up special needs diapers. So like rather than like the adult or the big kid, look up special needs. I bet there are patterns out there that give weight ranges because I know people in that community and it is a thing. So, you know, it's really hard to potty train somebody who's, you know, has those issues, and people who are wheelchair bound or paraplegic and whatnot, they also have urinary issues. So some of them have catheters and some of them don't. It really depends on the situation. Any other questions? Or should we just get sewing? I hope I'm able to help. I don't have a lot of experience in that area myself. So like I was saying before, we did the tube last time, where it's just a tube of fabric with snaps on the ends, and then you can put anything absorbent inside it. So you can put, you know, a pre-fold folded up in there. You can put a shop towel folded up in there. You can put a t-shirt folded up in there. Anything will work inside this to snap into a pull cover. So that's a great way just to add absorbency and not have to worry about anything fancier than that. And then we're going to be doing the serged fitted insert style today, since we did the serged fitted diapers yesterday. So it's kind of on brand for that, on theme. And this is the template. It's on my blog in the downloads. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's in that whole system. And it's a little hard to read where things are, but the things that are darker go all the way through this contoured shape, the snaps. And these parts under here are under the snake soaker. So we're not going to do any snaps beforehand, but I do like to add them before I sew the snake soaker down to the fitted piece. And that's just to keep them hidden and to have this nice kind of flat area over the top. So you serge these two pieces separate. There's the fitted bottom and then there's the snake style soaker top. I like to use 2 to 3 layers of bamboo fleece or cotton fleece for both the body and the insert. That gives 2 really good size 2-layer to 3-layer systems, which is enough for almost any baby. If you're going to do a doubler, you could always add a snap-in doubler or a lay-in doubler and, you know, add more or less to it that way. But it keeps it not very bulky, keeps it washing and drying fast, just like the fold-in fitteds. Yeah, so let's get started. I've got, you know, you can pin or clip for the snake soakers. I don't bother because I just keep my knife up and I trim it down as I get there. So for the snake soakers, you've got your layers. I've got them cut into a rectangle. It doesn't matter if they line up exactly because I'm going to trim edges. This one I think is 14 inches by 4.5 inches. I don't know what that is in centimeters. And it's on the template. You just copy it directly. So this is a little loud when I use my camera here to monitor my serger. My serger's kind of loud. I apologize. And since I don't pin anything, I just make sure things are staying lined up as I go. And then I just line up the other side and do the same thing. Any other questions? or any suggestions. I am starting the pull diapers starting at tomorrow, starting this week. I finished all the fitteds. We're going to be doing one more fold and fitted at the very end of the month. And then next month we'll go into something non-cloth diaper related. So if there's anything else, we can do kids' clothes, we can do grown-up clothes, we can do art, we can do painting, we can do drawing, we can do computer graphics. Really anything. So if anybody has anything else they want to see me do, then I am up for whatever, within reason, of course. But I do a lot of stuff. I'm kind of just generally crafty. I'm not just a sewist. And if anybody's wondering, I use the word sewist and not seamstress so that it's not gender specific. There were some people in my old sewing board that were dads, and even though it was kids' clothes, and so the people don't say seamstress, and you don't say tailor, which is the gendered. There's no real name, so instead of writing sewer and typing, they would say sewist, and I like that. So then you've got your little snake soaker that's going to go with your system. This also works as just an insert. You could serge 2 or 3 of them and have it just be a pedal soakers sewn together at the top or at one end or something like that. And then I always take my yarn needle and thread in my ends. Since my audio wasn't working at the beginning, does anybody want me to go back over the stuff that we did earlier this month? I've got everything next to me, and if there's anything you want to take a second look at or you want me to explain, I'm happy to go through and go over any of the previous patterns. Or if you've tried any and you have any questions, or you're having any trouble, I'm always happy to troubleshoot. If you want to talk about anything from past months, or anything that you're currently working on that you want to help troubleshoot, hit me up. Always happy to help. Or if you have a pattern that you're thinking about and you don't know how to make it and you want help, digitizing it or troubleshooting it, that's probably the thing that I actually am good at is, I don't sew any better than anybody else, but I'm pretty good at visualizing and digitizing. So I would say that's probably something that I excel at compared to a lot of sewists. I should look up copyright-free background music so this isn't so boring. Oh, I got lost. No other questions? Come on. Everybody's probably busy watching other things and reading the news. I noticed that one of my favorite streamers streams at basically the same time as me, so I always have to watch their stuff later on, but it's because it's a good time to stream. It's like after my kids are settled for the day, before I have to start cooking dinner, when my husband's in work meetings. Easy me time. If there's a better time for you or your time zone, let me know. I'm up pretty late at night in my time zone, so if you wanted me to do like a midnight stream on my time zone, I could totally handle that once a week. Or if you wanted me to do a morning one, I could shift my schedule a little bit. I don't have anything that I really have to do. I get up before 8 in the morning and I go to bed after midnight. I don't tend to sleep a lot. So there's your surged snake soaker. This one is only 2 layers, but I probably would do 3 if you have a heavy wetter. I like keeping them smaller for easier washing and drying, and you can always add in extra boosters, so this is kind of the way that I like to do it, but it's pretty thin. Once it washes, it'll full up a little bit and get a little thicker. And then you just take your surge-shaped piece and you make it just like it's a fitted diaper. And clip through the curves so that you don't lose your shape. If you want to sew this one with your knife down, you can. It won't matter either way if you're not comfortable with your curves. I definitely liked doing that more when I was new to serging curves. If anybody's not getting a chance to catch this live and has any questions, just shoot me a text, you know, or write a comment on it or whatever. Shoot me a message, write a comment on it. I am happy to answer questions. I'm happy to do requests rather than just whatever I've got planned. The things I've got planned are just for me to have something to do until people ask questions. I would really like for this to be more of an interactive type channel, not just me doing things and you know, trying them out or not trying them out. I want to know what people want to sew. I want to know what people want to paint. I want to know, you know, what crafts or whatever people want to try. I could do something simple like friendship bracelets and do like a video tutorial for kids. I could do, you know, something, you know, a little more in depth, like doing cosplay costumes or wig styling. I did wig styling for my college, so I've got some experience with different types of wigs, both natural hair and artificial, lower quality, higher quality. I've done, you know, fake weapons and stuff for cosplay. It's whatever. We can do whatever anybody wants. Okay, so for this, you just give yourself at least enough room to feed your elastics through. So I like to leave at least 4 inches in the middle. And then just serge around the outside all the way until you get to the same distance from the other side. And this is where I would speed it way up for a tutorial. So you've got your serged outer edge. Decent looking. I'm using white thread, so it's easier for you to see. So much lag. This is a really laggy day. Yeah, I've now got a warning saying that my bitrate is too low. I kind of wonder how the internet is around here. We had a lot of power outages where I live last night. The Pacific Northwest had tons and tons of power outages, and my kids actually didn't have school today because so many people's lights and power and internet were down. So that's probably what part of this is. So it's super laggy, so it's really hard. I apologize if I don't see people's comments very quickly. At this point, we're just going to sew, just like we do for the elastic casings on anything else. Get my sewing machine out. Hopefully my bobbin is good. I haven't checked it in a while. It's probably pretty low. And then I've got my channels on my pattern here, so I haven't used it in a long time. I'm going to mark them. For the template, looks like this. And because I'm serging, there's no seam allowance or anything, so just take it and mark a little dot where the casings are to go to. This is washable marker, so it'll come right out. I haven't sewn one of these in years. So there you've got your little casing ends marked, and just sew your casings. Since I'm just using sweatshirt fleece, I leave the stitch really wide. I don't worry about it being super careful. Make sure I'm not blurred out. Good. Okay, focus is good. So you take, I like to use my foot as kind of my guide, and I left justify my needle, and then I just make sure I'm setting it enough in to have room for whatever elastic I'm using. For me, since this is a fairly thick fabric and I'm using a 3/8 inch, I try to have my casing be over a 1/2 inch. And just keep it even. And again, I'm using white thread on orange, so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Probably not too easy, but not too challenging. If anybody has any questions about anything they've tried sewing or any problems they've had in anything, let me know. Or if you have any requests for what you want me to sew today or next week or any tutorial, also let me know. I'm always happy to help. So now there's all the elastic casing channels. They're very wide on this pattern, and that's because it's, meant to be just an insert. It's not a fitted itself. So it's got the elastics go really just like almost up to each other. This one's a little too far, but pretty close. And then you just feed it like you would feed any normal. I have my big roll of stretch rite that's lasted me years and years. If anybody has any materials questions, any questions about fabrics they're interested in trying to use, or any issues sewing certain fabrics, let me know. I'm happy to help with that kind of thing too. Troubleshooting is fun. I used to do free sewing lessons in my community, but now, you know, not really possible anymore. I tried doing a couple over FaceTime and stuff, but not many people are interested. So what I actually have a post about that, Melissa. I have a post about how I make my Katrina soakers on my blog. So I'm not sure if it's linked from the right sidebar or not. I think it is. Yeah, I know, but that's how I would do it if you're going to do the upcycled kind, unless you're doing knit wool covers. I have a couple different styles of wool covers that I've used. I've never done them. My patterns that are for diapers, you could use for them, but my favorite wool covers that I made that were cover shaped were hip snap covers. And I don't have any hip snap cover patterns. It's more like you take a Katrina soaker, you extend the sides so that there's like little tabs for adding snaps or whatever, and then you can do cased elastics inside wool. I have done that like numerous times. I am going to be doing a wool cover tutorial later on this month, and then also a fleece longies, the kind of like interchangeable fleece wool, if you're using those kinds of patterns, and I am going to talk about my method for doing it then. But as far as like the covers that I actually used with my daughter, I would basically take the Katrina soaker pattern and make it wider through the crotch, a little longer on the hip, make enough room for a cased elastic, and I did them with hip snaps when they were that kind of a cover. And then I would add like another layer through the wet zone, like a soaker would for like a fitted diaper, or like how you would use the sewn-in inserts in the Pocket OS with the all-in-one, the ones that have the sewn-in. It's where it's like a pattern that looks more like this rather than a regular fitted pattern, and then it fits inside your Katrina soaker pattern, and then you just zigzag the wool of the second layer down through the middle, and then you just sew the elastic casings on the thinner layer so that the whole way through it's 2 layers, but part of that is the elastic casing and then part of it is the part in the middle. It's pretty easy. So yeah, when we get to the Katrina soakers, there will be a wool soaker cover, but that one is going to be, I was going to do a pull-up style. Would you rather I make it a snapping hip snap style, or do you like the idea of it being a pull-up like a normal soaker? Because I could kind of make a little section where it covers turning it one way or the other. Yeah, like whatever. And then do you know how to lanolize? Have you made them before? Because I had some tricks for that worked really well. I also knit, and I have some patterns of Unravelry and stuff too. So if you need any help with the lanolizing. Yeah, you just make it wider through the crotch. You add on about like 3/4 of an inch on the outside all the way around for the elastic casings, and then you just fold the casings inward. It's not super complicated, but I am gonna be doing that later on this month. Yeah, I like the hip snaps too. That's what I did for my daughter. I'll do that then. I'll do a hip snap and a pull-up version when I do that video. It'll be right at the end of the month. It's like my 3rd to last video planned. Oh yeah, so lanolizing wool is fun. You don't have to do it very often, but you do need to do it. I liked buying a little bottle of liquid lanolin, and then also the like Lancino stuff that you can get at the grocery store. And so you first you wash your wool really really well, let it dry and all that. Then you get like a bowl of warm water, or like a sink of warm water, and you melt some solid lanolin into like hot water first, and then you pour that or then you add 1 drop of like Dawn soap to the solid lanolin. It's been so many years since I've done this. You add 1 drop of Dawn soap to the solid lanolin in the hot water, and you shake it up or you mix it up until it all sort of dissolves and is even, and then you pour it across the surface of the warm water in the sink or in the bowl, and then you lower your inside out wool into it and swish it around, and then do it on the other side, and then turn it right side in, and then you rinse it out with a little bit warmer water, and you let it all kind of get in there. And then after you've, let it dry, it takes a long time. After you've let it dry, you then take the liquid lanolin and you rub it between your hands, and you sort of smear it all over the wet zone of the inside of your wool. And that will last a long time. You can air dry that. You can have like maybe once every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks wash that. If it's, as long as it's, done really well, it'll hold forever. Like, you don't need to be done often, but lanolizing day is a big day. So basically I would just do everything on like one day and then keep one thing out, and so that you're rotating out that one thing that you do on lanolizing day. It takes a long time for wool to dry. So hopefully that's helpful. I remember finding a tutorial about it and then kind of modifying it to what worked best for me, but that was how it worked best for me, was the whole sort of shake it up in hot water with a little bit of soap, pour it over the surface of warm water, submerge your wool into it over and over again on the wet zone, run a little bit warmer water over it to sort of dissipate it through the wool, and then dry it out. And then you block your wool, like you do usual. But you need to have like a big surface. I used to do it in my laundry room, which had a tile floor, and I'd put down a bunch of rag towels, and I would my kids and I would like step all over the towels, like sandwiched around the wool. So we'd lay the wool out and put all the towels down after we wrung the wool out. And then we'd walk around on it so it soaked into the towels. And then you put it over like a drying net or a drying rack to fully dry. But by then it's just damp, and overnight after that it's dry. So I didn't use wool all the time. A lot of people use wool all the time, but it's good for overnight when you have toddlers and they're really heavy wetters, or if you just don't want to, if you're more into like a natural solution. A lot of people like doing, all natural fibers like bamboo, hemp, cotton, and wool. They don't want to use polyester, which is, plastics. So I totally get it. And it's also the way people used to do it. And it works really well. And because it's, more breathable, you don't get a lot of ammonia odor or anything like that. You really don't get a lot of odor at all. Everything kind of breathes better. But there's that initial smell of kind of wet sheep, which is kind of the same as wet dog when you're washing, and that's kind of a horrible smell. But that doesn't happen after it's, after it's all prepped. But yeah, when you do your own knits, or you do like what I called re-knits, which is where you take like a loose wool sweater and you just kind of take a circular needle and re-knit it into, like so I would take two sweater legs and I'd unweave them down, unknit them, just like unravel them down to the right length, and then I would take my circular needle and knit them all back together and do like a gathered waist and stuff. So I would take like a mostly knit something and just spend a little bit of time to add a little more. And is she interested in wool and natural fibers, your friend? Or is she just kind of wants a sampling of a bunch of things? Because a lot of people are intimidated. They like the idea of wool, but then when it comes to like knowing that they have to they can't just throw it in the washer and dryer. Because you just can't machine, wash and dry it. It doesn't work that way. So a lot of people get kind of intimidated by it. If somebody's really into the natural stuff, though, I would definitely go for things like pre-fitteds and wool. That's better even than sewing from scratch, because even just the manufacturing of, bamboos and stuff use a lot of chemicals. And something like an unbleached pre-fitted, unbleached pre-fold or a, muslin based kind of cloth is going to be better for people who are a little more, natural conscious, environmental conscious. Also, just upcycling. That's always, if they already have shirts and towels, that's a great thing for the environment, is just to recycle all your fabrics. Yeah, people, they say they're interested in bamboo. I would definitely research the sourcing of your bamboo. I have bamboo, and I got it because it's seconds, but bamboo sourcing can be kind of hit or miss. There's a lot of a lot of chemicals used in most bamboo fabrics. It's something that sounds good, but then it's like, how good is it actually? A lot of different companies that sell those fibers will have descriptions of what their actual process is like, but if they don't give any sort of that kind of guidance, it might actually be no better for the environment than one of the more artificial type materials. Where did I put my bodkin? I've lost my bodkin. It's not in there. Where are you, bodkin? Where are you? There you are! Inside. It just didn't shake out. So yeah, before you give her the things like the wool covers and stuff, I would definitely find out if she's willing to do that kind of a care routine. Because they do take a bigger care routine. Something like, you know, recycled fleece, or you know, even, honestly, I know pool's all plastics and rubbers, but even if you just use a few pool covers, they last a long time. Otherwise, you know, if you're making wool and they're not going to be able to actually use wool, or they're going to not use it correctly and it's not going to work for them, like, you know. Yeah, I mean, wool's great for overnight. Wool and fleece are totally great for overnight, especially through the winter when it's not going to be too warm at night. Like, my daughter would just sleep in a fleece or wool longies or soaker over a pre-fitted at night. That was her best overnight, for sure. My son did better with pockets because his skin didn't like being wet at all. So he would use pocket diapers with microfleece. There just wasn't another option. You can't really have stay dry and feel dry without having plastics. I mean, maybe nowadays there's something better, I don't know. But her skin wasn't as sensitive as his was. He has a lot of allergies, so it's probably related to that. But yeah, I started cloth diapering with him, and then she's 2 years younger than him, and so I thought, oh, I've got all these diapers, I can use the same diapers for him, I mean, from him for her, but they were so different. They were both so different with their cloth diapering preferences and needs. Plus, she was a drama princess, and she did not like, you know, staying in her diaper for any length of time. She also always wanted to pick out her own fabrics when she was like 1+. She would want to pick out her own diapers. She didn't want anybody choosing anything for her. She's no different at 11. Bamboo was the rage when I was diapering too, and my kids are 11 and 14 now. I'm not really sure when that even took over. Like, so there are a lot of natural fibers that have been used for a long time. Like, most rayon is natural rayon. And as far as, like, I mean, like I said, I would look into what type of bamboo, you know, is environmentally friendly or whatnot. Sometimes it's better just to recycle things. And that's actually, you know, more beneficial because at least it's not being just thrown away. Like, honestly, like, old t-shirts. That's rather than them becoming packaging for, you know, like the few companies that actually do take shredded things and turn them into packaging, you can make them into quite a lot of things. Plus, then you get cute patterns, too. Just take printed t-shirts and you get patterns. Take striped t-shirts, you get stripes. Especially if you have a serger for like inserts and stuff with the t-shirt, it's just so much easier than turning. You can totally turn them. I've got a tutorial for heavy wetter t-shirt diaper on my blog using 2 t-shirts and turned for the soakers and everything. But it's so fast with a serger for a t-shirt diaper because you can sort of stretch as you go, and then you don't even have to worry about, you know, it pulling at all. They're so stretchy. I've got my t-shirt thing here that I've used. I made like pedal soakers for, so I'll show you how simple that is. Like, this is just that ugly t-shirt, and I just serged rectangles. These are each 3 layers. You could do it 4 and still be fine. They would wash and dry super easily because they're thin, and you can make as many petals as you need to, something like that, and then just put it into either a contour or a pre-fold or, fitted, and then you've got all sorts of recycled, boosters, rather than sewing, something with new fabric. If you're using used fabric, then it's already one step more environmentally conscious. Yeah, my daughter never liked wearing pants. I had to make her a bunch of dresses when she was little because she hated anything touching her waist. She didn't mind underwear, but she would always wear underwear that didn't touch her waist. But she couldn't stand leggings, she couldn't stand pants, she couldn't stand skirts, like anything around the middle. And she's my neurotypical kid. Like my son is autistic and has issues, but he never cared about pants. Okay, so there's my contour, nice shape there. Elastic, just like a fitted diaper, and I'm going to do my back elastic, and then we're just going to serge it closed. And this process is identical for the fitted versus the contour, fitted soaker. It's just the same through anything that's a serge diaper, and anything that's an elasticized serged anything. I know some people like to add a little bit of elastic at the front too, but I've never found that necessary, not when you're adjusting things. I hear movement upstairs. Being in the basement is kind of eerie when somebody's walking right over your head. It's like the whole house creaks. Does anybody else have any questions or things they'd like to see me sew or make for a different tutorial or for a different live stream? We already have the plans. I mean, I can tell you what the rest of my plans are for the month. I don't have it written in front of me since I'm sewing right now, but I can get a general idea. I'm starting with various pocket diapers starting tomorrow. We're going to start with the rear leading edge pocket first thing, and then we're going to go to a front envelope pocket, and then we're going to do a dual pocket. Well, I think then we're going to do the rear envelope pocket with the pocket all-in-ones like on my blog. Then we're going to go to the dual pocket all-in-one, which can also just be a dual pocket diaper. Any of the pocket all-in-ones, all you do to make them just a pocket and not an all-in-one is ignore the insert part. So there's that. And then we're going to be doing the flip style cover before the next live stream, because I'm going to be doing my flip style-ish cover that goes with this system that next day. And the day of the flip style cover, we're also going to just make the elemental because they're the same. So for the elemental compared to the flip, you literally just serge a hourglass shaped, soaker and sew it into your cover. it's just a flip style cover with the soaker, serged in. That's not how the old elementals were, but that's how the new ones are. So, or newer, 12 years old now or whatever they are, but so that's really easy to just convert that. So anything that's as simple as that between a cover and a all-in-one or a pocket and an all-in-one, I will just show the process to turn it into the all-in-one afterwards. The difference between a pocket and a pocket all-in-one is just adding absorbency before you sew your front and back piece together, which is usually how it is for almost any diaper. It's just how are you going to prep your front and back before you sew them together. Everything is sewn together the same way. It's just, whatever you're going to prep first. You prep your inner and outer, and that involves a lot of sewing ahead of time if you're doing an all-in-one. Or sometimes a little bit if it's in the case of like an elemental. And then after that, I'm doing I guess we're basically doing a Cotton Babies week. We're going to be doing a free time after that, and then leading into the all-in-twos. So the free time is when there is, two different shorter soakers, short narrow soakers sewn one to each end, the front and the back. And then, but after you've got those sewn to your inner, you just sew it onto your outer, just like you would with any other pull diaper.
So there's the 3 Cotton Baby style, and then I was considering doing the Grovia style, but it's you know, it's it's a shape difference. It's a different cut. So if your kid fits into Grovias really well, it's kind of cool. It's got a pieced together pattern, which makes for a different shape at the hips and through the crotch, but it is a lot more work to sew. So it's you know, if you like quilting and you like piecing things together, then great. So we can do that too. So now that we've got our elastics all pretty and sewn on. Oh, and you can, before you do the elastics, if it's easier for you, you can totally mark your snap holes since they're going to get puckered, and it's probably harder to do it this way. I should have talked about that. Here, we'll do that now. So these ones have snap-in snaps and rise snaps. And while you don't need to add the snaps till after you're totally done sewing, you do need to have them marked if you aren't going to just eyeball it like I usually do. So since the elastic's already on there, it makes it a little harder. I'm sorry about that. So you could take it and you could say, I punched a hole through my template and I fit it on, and then you just do a little dot. And the reason why it's important to have them in the right places is because they're going to snap onto the cover in very specific places, so it has to line up properly. I should have thought about that. Hindsight is 20/20, right? And if you forget, you can do it this way too. For the front, it's a little easier since it's not stretchy up here. Dot, 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 dot. So yeah, having them marked ahead is helpful. I wasn't thinking. So yeah, at this point you're just going to close it up at the front. And then I'm just going to use my yarn needle and feed that in, and you'll hardly even be able to see it. What do people want to do after cloth diapering? Do you want to do garments? Do you want to do household things? Because I'm going to get through pretty much every type of cloth diaper this month. I'm trying to do about 5 videos a week, so I mean, I've got more patterns than that on my blog, but they're all sewn the same way. It's just, you know, how they're cut that's different, or how their snap layout is that's different. So once we get through this month, it really is everything. Unless there's something new out there. I know there's like the snail shell diapers, like G diapers, but that method is actually really simple. It's just kind of making a pouch and then having the pouch snap into a non-pull cover. So you could use like a fleece cover would work really well. So you'd have like a fleece cover and then a snap-in pull pouch, and then just stuff your pull pouch with whatever your insert is. And we could do it. I've never done a turtle shell diaper before, but we totally could if that's something that people are interested in. But other than that, this month is totally enough time to cover all the diapers. Okay, so now we've got our little base, and at this point you can do your snaps before you sew on your snake soaker, or you can just sew on your snake soaker. You could even sew on your snake soaker to just your inner, but I like just putting it all the way through. It makes it easier for me. You could also do something if you don't want to sew when the elastic is in. You could sew down just the back piece before adding your elastics so that it's, you know, in there, and then you could do the front piece later on just so it's something out of the way. It just depends on how much you want to be able to see what you're doing. Some people really need to be able to see what they're doing, and they don't want a piece of fabric like laying over it. But that's the order of operations is not necessarily in any specific order. I think that the way that I would want to do it if I wanted to see everything would be, this would be the time when I'd want to add my snaps. So, but I usually just add them all at the end because I do them while I'm sitting on the TV or, you know, while I'm doing something else. Snaps are kind of my doing something else, half paying attention task. On paper towels. So would you want to use flannel, or what would be the fabric that you would want most to do for on paper towels? Would you want it like pretty, like on one side, like you could do you know, recycled fabric on one side and like a pretty print on the other side, or would you want to just make them like sort of like a nice pretty print that matches your kitchen or something like that? Because that's, I mean, what you make them out of changes kind of the way you make them. I've seen the kind also where you just do it like cloth napkins and you just have them sitting in a little box on the table. And then there's also the kind where people put snaps on them and have them on a roll. Or you just have them wrapped around a roll without snaps. It just depends on how you want to lay it out in your kitchen. Like with any sort of tea towels or, you know, any sort of, you know, anything that you use in your household linens, right? Lag is so slow. But yeah, I could totally do household things. That's super easy. We could do things like towels and rags and family cloth and custom pillowcases. I know my daughter loved making herself a pillowcase when she was little. It was like her first big sewing thing. She was probably 7 or 8. Terry toweling is going to be really, really thick. So if you want to use like actual, like reused like towels to do on paper towels, I would just cut them into big squares or rectangles, whatever size you want to use, and just serge the edges. If you're gonna do them sewn, then I would do something like get like a piece of cotton binding on the edges, like you would do for like a little mini like decorative quilt. I have a little binding maker that we 3D printed that you literally just feed like fabric through and it folds it for you. Something like that, like binding the edges of a terry towel or just serging the edges of a terry towel, depending on how you want it to look. But otherwise, terry towels would be definitely too thick to turn and top stitch, if that makes sense. But yeah, you could make them totally pretty. You could have your terry towel, and then you could do like a print flannel or a print quilting cotton as your trim. And then, yeah, we could do that. That'd be fun. Cute little custom-made, you know, tea towels for the kitchen, basically. And they're already thick enough to put a snap through if you wanted to do it snapping. I wouldn't want to do it snapping because I wouldn't wanting to wipe something down with something that has hard plastic on it. But I know people do it that way. More ideas, more ideas. You've got so many ideas. I mean, I'm kind of at a loss. Like, I'm just home because everybody's home right now. And so I'm just trying to do something. And I just figured, why not put it online for everybody to see me actually doing something? Plus, I have my husband and son's old hand-me-down computer equipment, so that's great. Good thing they like video games. I actually started watching some Twitch recently, and
it's pretty funny, like all the different things that are up on Twitch. Like there's people in their pottery studios throwing their pottery. There's people painting, there's people doing, computer art, there's people doing video games, of course. There's like podcast type stuff where people are just sitting around talking. It's such a diverse like environment. It'd be kind of fun. But then you just sit there like streaming and you really have to have something that you're doing. I feel like I'd be really boring if I streamed all the time. You can only talk to yourself so much. So for this all-in-two system, because I'm going to call it an all-in-two even though it's got a bunch of insert options, it's a snap-in cover system. For something like this, if you've already got a baby beyond the newborn days, I would definitely make, 12 of something to snap inside it and 4 to 6 of the covers. And you could do this as your entire, cloth diapering system, but it's nice to have fitteds for nighttime, and it's nice to have other options for, easy, quick changes. I used to like doing something like this for a few, and then I would do an all-in-two for when my daughter was older and we'd go to a park where it was just a pull shell with like something lightweight on the other side, and then a snake soaker, because that was really good for her running around and easy change. There's a lot of easy, quick options. So for these middle snaps, these ones through the middle, it's hard to tell from the template because I didn't draw it, real obviously. But I tend to put them facing upwards because they're under the snake soaker. So I put them facing upwards so that when the snaps are inside the cover, they don't scratch the inside of the pull. So these ones that are going to snap to the shell, they're facing down. And then these ones that are adjusting the rise, they're going to be facing up. And then after you put them in, or before, it doesn't matter how you do it, you just sew your snake soaker just below your snaps at the top and bottom here. You can even do it above the snaps if you wanted to make a longer snake soaker. And then that's how you get your extra layers. I did it white so you could see. Let's put the holes to the side. And I have the rise adjustments on this so that it fits nicely into the cover and doesn't just bulky, but when you use the snake soaker, you can just fold it. And they're inside enough that they're covered by the snake soaker, so there's no snaps against the baby skin and no rough parts of the snaps against the cover. I also have the rise snaps in the opposite order that they usually are in a rise on a pull cloth diaper because they're hidden. So the stud is at the top instead of the bottom. I think that's how it usually are. Usually it's, no, maybe it's always that way. Gosh, it's been so long since I've done this. I don't know. Never mind. Don't listen to me. Ignore what I'm saying. It's probably safest for everybody. So like trivets, like the soft like pot holders, as my mom always called them. For a bowl cozy, do you mean something that's bowl shaped that fits around it? Because I've never seen anything like that. Like that's not something that we ever used. I know about like cotton pot holders. They're usually just a quilted sort of trimmed edge piece of fabric with a little bit of like cotton batting, something that's better than poly batting. Poly batting wouldn't hold very well, wouldn't hold heat. But I don't know what a bowl cozy is. Please explain. I'm interested. I'm also curious what people in other countries, like do for their household stuff, because I know it varies so much from region to region in the US even. I know that my husband's family had very different stuff in their homes than we have had in my home growing up, because we're from very different places in the US. I wonder if there are any websites that talk about like the different environmental impacts of different fabrics. Like I know that polyester obviously is terrible because it's plastic, but I wonder if there's anybody who's really like broken down the whole processing and like bleaching and you know whatever process, because I know rayon is made out of wood pulp. So, you know, it sounds, you know, rayon, it sounds terrible, but it's actually usually pretty natural, but I don't know if the process to make it is good or not. I'm really curious. I should look that up. I know people like don't use things like the whole joke about vegans and pleather, right? Like artificial leather, but artificial leather is plastic, and then is that actually any better? Using hand-me-downs or recycled is a lot better because it already exists. You're just reusing it in a different way. It's definitely never something that I've given a lot of thought, which is probably pretty terrible. Everybody should be giving it a lot of thought. So that's all the snaps that go in the snap-in cover. You've got these ones facing up, these ones facing down. And then all we're going to do is sew the snake sucker on. If you had like an hour a day, you know, to spend, you could make, you know, one of these a day and then make a cover on a different day, and then 2 weeks you could have an entire stash. If you're making serged fitteds and fleece covers, it would go even faster than that. Okay. So you can zigzag or straight stitch this to the fitted. You could use something like a zipper foot if you want to get really close. Don't mind me, I totally plug my things in. And then the same thing to the other side. And like I said, you could totally sew this in before you add the snaps at the back. You could even sew it into the back before you do the elastic. It might make it easier for you if you don't want to have to stretch out things. But I just wasn't thinking about that. But if you're like me and you forget, then it doesn't matter to do it this way either.
Oh, and there goes my bobbin, exactly on time. Perfect, that's amazing. How did it know that I was just finished? Interesting. I'll have to look that up because I've never seen a bull cozy before. So I'll look that up. Okay, so for your snap-in little surged all-in-two system here, when you pull it all the way out, you'll see that it's the same length as the insert. But then when you reduce the size, or if you're going to like a smaller rise size setting, you can snap it down just like the cover snap down. So say your cover is snapped down to the smallest rise, you would snap down your back panel piece to the smallest size, and then when you had your insert in here, you just either fold it at the back, if you have somebody like a baby going to sleep and it's on it, oh sorry, it's back. If you've got a baby going to sleep and you have it lying down on its back, you could fold and put more absorbency toward the back. If you've got a girl who is going to be crawling around or whatever, you can put it through the middle. If you have a boy who wets a lot in the front, you can fold the little snake soaker more in the front. So that's what the snake soaker, that's how it reduces in size. And then how that fits inside the system. So then this then snaps into that cover system. So like it would be snapped in to the cover at the back and the front and hold really fast. And it's got a nice wide crotch. So it's got good absorbency. It's got 3 different rise settings, just like the cover, so they just go together. So if the cover is snapped to one, you just make sure that you're snapping the insert to the same one as the cover. And we'll make the cover next week. And then we'll have all 3 pieces. I'll serge up this fitted insert to go before then as well, so we'll have all the pieces. But it's made the same way as this. You just add more snaps across the belly and you put wing snaps on it so that it's a fitted. But it's a very narrow fitted. I'd call it a petite fitted. So there's your snake style insert. You can see that the same width through the middle. And there's your little fitted snap-in insert. Very nice, pretty serged edges. And since my sound was off earlier, I'm going to show all of the stuff that we've sewn so far now, and then I'll just cut out the beginning of the video and re-upload it. I haven't figured out yet how to edit it down without re-uploading. I know there's a way to do it. I need to figure it out. I am new to YouTube. So far we have done the Comfort Surge fitted. We used a t-shirt, and it's got the little soakers that go inside. They can sew in the same way as we sewed that in if we wanted to, or just lay in. And it's got the surged wings, surged front panel, so it's nice and trim and flat, and then a turned and top stitched little, or just top stitched really, little edge there for cased elastic so that it is not rough against their legs. We have the fold-in fitted from last month. We're going to be doing a one-size turned version later this month. And that's so that you get the most out of your fabric and you have really fast drying time because it's very thin and easier to wash too. We have our basic serged fitted with a little snap-in soaker. This is a newborn size. Can you tell it's for somebody who's a Harry Potter fan? Yeah, there we go. All the newborn stuff. We have our 3 styles of pre-fitteds. We have our basic serged pre-fitted. We have our sewing machine only pre-fitted. And then we have our seamless extended wing pre-fitted. And this is the one where you have to use a second fabric. It could be a t-shirt, it could be a rag, whatever you want, as your inner layer, but it has the longer wings, so you can use it with longer wing patterns. And it's really smooth. This one I did sew, and you can also make this same one serged. It's just the pattern shape, not the not the type of sewing. You can make almost anything both ways. I don't like doing serged pull diapers, but some people do. But I don't think any of my tutorials are going to be a serged pull diaper. A lot of people do them for pull all into shells if their kid's not sensitive to the rough edges. They do like fleece on the inside, pull on the outside, and just serge it. It's quick. If your kid's not sensitive to it, it's definitely quick. We have the one that I did during the live stream. We have the all-in-one with the cutout on the inside and the snake style soaker. This one is done with hook and loop, but I'm going to be doing a more in-depth tutorial for one, and quicker because it'll be lots of fast forwarding, for an actual tutorial during the pull diapers weeks. And we have our basic turned fitted with the pedal style soakers. And we have our fold over elastic and pull cover, which is just one layer of pull and fold over elastic. It's the quickest kind of cover. It does sometimes wick a little bit if you don't have a really good pre-folder fitted underneath. They're not going to be as watertight as some of the other diapers, but they're a really good option. You can make all pre-fitteds and a couple of these, and that would be all you would ever need. And basic zippered wet bag, any size, same process. And a drawstring tail liner. Just pull with the French seam on the inside, and then drawstring. You can use that for inside a trash can, inside a diaper genie. You can just have it as like a laundry bag for diapers. You can use it later on for sporting equipment, bathing suits, towels when you go to the community pool, whatever. A lot of the stuff can be used for a lot of different kinds of sewing. This kind of thing can be made smaller and made into snack bags and sandwich bags. So yeah, second half, starting tomorrow. I'll make a new playlist for it. It should be good. Thank you for joining me. Happy sewing.